We're looking at frequency histograms. Now, a frequency histogram comes from a set of data that we've already put into a frequency table. We learned about frequency tables previously. They can have other columns as well. So we've often been doing a percentage column, which of course would be the frequency divided by the total times 100. And our frequency histograms can be with data that is ungrouped or with data that is grouped. And I'll just talk about a couple of our methods for creating them. So this was the number of siblings. In a frequency histogram, our different scores go along the bottom. Grid paper is often more useful. And ideally, you have a centimetre wide column for each of the scores, and you leave half a column's width at the start. If it is a table with individual scores, then each score gets marked in the middle of where a column is going to go. And typically, I missed out my last column. If you were instead doing a frequency table with grouped data, such as this one, our test marks, then the labels go on the outside of the column, and I'll show you that later. So my highest frequency is 13, and again, grid paper is usually easier. Try to get a straight line. Good grief, sorry about that. 2, 4. So this is frequency. Your percentage frequency can go on this axis as well, or it can just be frequency, and in fact you can put percentage frequency over here. And then your frequency columns, use a ruler. For a frequency table for numerical data, our columns are touching. So this is a frequency of 1 for 0 siblings. And the most common here, a frequency of 13 people who have 1 sibling only. So this is a frequency histogram. It's pretty easy once you remember how to do it. About the only thing I need to remind you about from now on is, of course, that you need to label this number of siblings. And a frequency of 0 still gets a space, it just gets no column. And that is our frequency histogram. Since I know it's number of siblings in the family, I would give it a heading. And then for grouped data, like this one here, our test scores, we still put our possible scores along the bottom. We still have half a column's width before we start having our columns. I'm going to need 6 columns here because there's 6 different groups. But when it's grouped data, put the scores, 20, 25, on the edge of the columns. So like that, it makes it very clear that this column here is between 20 and 25. My frequency needs to go up to 10. And then, of course, we do our columns in exactly the same way. We would label this test scores. Sorry about the noise outside. We would make our columns, so the only difference with grouped data is numbers on the outside of the columns.